The Auto Club 500, powered by Q Motor Oil, is sponsored by the auto parts experts at AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. By Amp Energy, for energy, focus, and control. Amp yourself. And by Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We'll pick you up. This is the hottest place to be. The California Speedway.
Jeff Gordon wins it.
NASCAR on Fox.
And NASCAR on Fox, back at the Hollywood Hotel. Kyle Busch won the truck race yesterday, having a good time. So they don't mind hanging out. And Jeff, we appreciate the drivers talking to Krista and Steve and Matt and Dick, helping us through not only the rain delay at the start of things, but now we have a red flag out and a slight delay as they have to get serious once they get racing again.
Well, there's no other sport that I know of that during the course of the event, you're able to kind of like do a timeout and spend that much time, really watching the guys interact with one another, talk to them, ask them about what's going on, what their thought processes are. I mean, it's great to have this kind of relationship with the drivers.
We talked about Denny Hamlin's incident earlier, hitting the wet spot. He's only failed to finish 2 of 80 career races coming into today, and he hopes to get his car put back together enough to be able to compete. As Clint Boyer, as Jeff Burton, they look like they're getting along just fine after last week.
like I say, the heat of the battle, a lot of times things get kind of like blown out of proportion, but I'm sure those two guys right there are great teammates, and it's going to be fine. They're going to work together. They're going to win races. David
Reagan, Matt Kenseth's teammate as well. And does it get into the head of a driver? I know they're relaxed now, but those spots out on the track until, as NASCAR is addressing the issue after the comments, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Denny Hamlin were very clear that they didn't think the track was ready, at least completely ready.
Well, anytime you have an accident, you can kind of like say, hey, that's what caused it. That's going to be the situation you're going to discuss. But yeah, I'm sure NASCAR is working very diligently right now to be able to get this issue resolved so we can see some good racing and take that little factor away from them so they can ease their mind and really get focused in on racing one another.
After the energy and excitement of a great Daytona 500 finish, we come here and let's look big picture, because after this it's Las Vegas, right. And there's no break now for drivers. So it is important if they can get the race in and get it in a competitive manner, that they can move forward.
Yeah, you got to move forward. And you got to think about it like this right here. We've got to go back or either have other vehicles transport secondary cars out here to be able to do the race next week at Las Vegas. So, we're 3,000 miles away from our home bases. We need to get back and try to, get a few things on track. So how you get out of the box kind of sets the tempo for the whole entire season. So having a good second race after running Daytona, followed by Las Vegas, and getting on back to the East Coast like we're going to be running Atlanta and Bristol later on, Martinsville. There's a lot of racing that, you got to be prepared for, and the early part of the season really can dictate your season.
Right, 36 races, of course, 26 before we get to the chase for the Sprint Cup Championship. Let's head down trackside again, check in with Dick Bergman. Dick?
And Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards are not teammates, but they were sharing some interesting information. Come on in, take a look at this seat in Carl Edwards' car. Notice how the floor of the seat is tipped up. Carl says that really helps you a lot in a hard frontal crash, and I bet it does. It just spreads all that impact energy out, doesn't it? Looking at this race, Doctor, you raced on dirt all these times. Can't you just go sideways and step on the gas and get through all this stuff?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, if you hit it with all your tires, it's fine. But, you saw it from Denny, and I saw Greg almost lose it. And the way our windshields are all covered with stuff, you can't hardly see the wet spots, so it's a surprise when you hit it.
Let's take a look at that windshield. Goat, can you come on over here? And meanwhile, while Goat's doing that, I'm going to ask you, Carl, how difficult is it to see through that windshield with all the speedy dry spots and the pock marks on it?
For me, it's real difficult. Hopefully we'll get to tear them off. I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. There's some wetness out there, some moisture, and it's coming up on the windshields. And it's one thing to have it, wet out there. It's another thing we can't see the spots. That's the hard part, but kind of a braille method right now.
Okay, and Kyle Busch, how are you doing out there?
Do what?
How are you doing out there on the racetrack?
I'm doing all right. We drove from like 22nd to 5th or 6th or something like that. So car was pretty good. Interstate batteries, Camry's doing well, and we'll keep just making some changes on it on pit road. We already changed some stuff, a little bit tight in the center, but overall happy with it. So we'll just keep it going and hopefully get back out there and try to get this race in.
I think that's just what that NASCAR official would like you to do. Get out there. Steve.
Greg Biffle, Dick, and Greg, this has been a great racetrack for you. 3 nationwide series win, a cup win, another race where you led 168 laps before you lost a motor. And I'm curious, does this race car, does it suit the same characteristics that you were so good in the other car?
You know, it does. You know, these cars, we get them a little bit, you know, I like to drive a kind of a loose car. And this car, you know, you hear people complain about they can't get them to turn good. And you know, we got our car turning pretty good, and it's a little bit on the loose side right now, but I like it the way it is. The track's going to rubber up a little bit. We know it's a green racetrack. A little too loose down there when I got on that water. Barely saved it and lost some positions. But, you know, we think we got a pretty good race car for today. There's a couple guys up there up front a little faster than us right now.
All right, thanks, Greg. Matt?
And what one tradition, Steve, that Clint Boyer would like to start, I saw your mentor, Morgan Shepherd, roller skate by. You going to get a pair of those?
Man, he's got more talent than I got. I'd be busting my butt as soon as I turned on the pit road. But, no, I keep my wheels on the race car and keep it on the racetrack. Hopefully they're going to let us get back out there and have some more fun.
There you go. We're going to get ready to go here shortly. Krista.
Good news, Matt. They've told the drivers to get back in their cars. Kurt Busch is one of them who has done so. And Kurt, you've been moving your way up through the pack, starting back in 36, and you're up to 13th. Not too bad.
Yeah, the car feels okay. We're just waiting to really see how a long run sorts out. You know, we're a little loose to start off, and then it gets a little bit tight. So we're just trying to sort out where the car's going to run, and just trying to make sure I stay on the bottom, dodge some of those little weepers that are there. But all in all, Miller Lite Dodge feels good, and it was nice to come from 36 up to 13th. We just need to keep going.
All right, keep it moving. That's Kurt Busch.
All right, thanks, Krista. And Jimmy Johnson getting into the Chevy pace car to go. They're going to go to the spot and check out at least the areas that they're talking about in 3 and 4 that need to be dried up a little bit.
Exactly. What they try to do is get the drivers that are running up front. There's Jeff Gordon talking to Buster Alton once again, NASCAR official. And what they do is they get the drivers to go out there and take a look at what the track looks like so they can get their opinion before we go back and put everybody inside the car. Hey, he won't let him in.
You need to give him a key. Come on.
I'm leading the race. Let me get in here.
And it's a Chevy as well. We have 2 Hendrick drivers up in front, 2 in the garage at the moment as we try and dry things out. We're now officially more than an hour in this red flag delay. And let's rejoin upstairs Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy.
Well, the problem, Chris, is not rainwater on the track. It's groundwater, or underground water, if you will, underneath the racing surface. Friday night, they drilled well points in turn number 3 so that water would have a place to sink to where it could be pumped out from down at the base of turn number 3. When this race started, there was a slight seepage out onto the track, but NASCAR officials and the drivers agreed the track was good to go, and the race started. And we've taken a look, and as the race wore on through its 21 laps and 1 caution flag and the eventual red flag, the seepage became worse. Was it from the cars pounding on the asphalt or some other reason? But the weepers became worse during the racing. So now they've cut some grooves. They're going to let the drivers go out and have a look at that. But NASCAR President Mike Helton came over here and visited and said, we're not going to restart the race until we're convinced and the drivers are convinced that it's safe to go racing.
I believe those cars going over the track, and I think it was like a pump almost, and it was just working the asphalt enough that it was pumping that water through those cracks.
Yeah, we've had so much rain here lately, and you go back to yesterday, we didn't have any issues during the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race or the little bit of practice that we got, but it rained so hard here last night, didn't quit till mid-morning. There's so much water here.
It was a hard rain last night and a light but steady rain right through 12 noon, 1 o'clock today.
I know we're talking about the track and conditions and everything else, but I just want you to look at the amount of headroom that these guys now have in this new car. The old car, I was looking at a shot of my brother. He was all bowed up inside of his car. His helmet was actually up against the roof in the old car. And now he's got room for his cool box up here to hook up, and he's second down in there, and he looks very comfortable, and that's a big, big change.
It's funny you mention that. I was talking to Greg Biffle about that very thing yesterday, and he said at Daytona, after being in the Sprint Cup Series car of tomorrow, when he got in his Nationwide Series car, he almost felt like something's not right here. It's like claustrophobic because it was so much tighter in closer quarters.
Red flag at Fontana, California in the Auto Club 500. Jimmy Johnson's had a chance to look at it. Jeff Gordon as well. We'll find out track conditions when we return.
inside, looking inside. He's there. That's your quarter. I'm circling in front of you, spinning in front of you. Yellow is out. Yellow is out.
A wild day of racing in Southern California and only 21 laps on the board to show for it. Now, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson have been out there to have a look at turn number 3, discussing what they saw. They are now back in their cars, and the order has been given to refire the engines.
Interesting. I guess those little grooves that we cut in there may be doing their job. We'll see.
21 complete, 229 laps to go, and we need to run another 105 laps for this race to be official.
I'm going to tell you one thing. This is going to give a whole new meaning to tippy-toeing off into turn 1.
And turn 3.
Well, I don't recall anybody complaining about turn 1. I mean, I know we've looked at turns 3 and 4 all weekend, but turn 1, I don't recall anybody having a problem there until we saw this new situation down here.
Until Casey Mears.
Until Casey's deal.
And we've looked at a lot of video, and definitely as the race went on, the issue of seepage and weeping water out of the asphalt intensified the more we ran. And obviously, if we go back under green and this continues, this race may have to wait for another day.
No, Mike, you mentioned Mike Helton, president of NASCAR, came by our booth, and he said under the pace laps that they were talking on scanners to the teams, and no one had any complaint. It was more or less, hey, let's drop the green flag, let's go racing.
Well, and we're all anxious to get the race started, you know, and the drivers are they're gonna figure, well, we can deal with this a little bit, but I don't think anybody was quite ready for what happened down here in turn 1, and if we got that fixed, maybe we'll be okay.
In the garage, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car, along with Reed Sorensen, perhaps under repair. I believe Casey Mears and Sam Hornish done for the day, and Denny Hamlin's car being repaired as well. And once the cars move from pit road, we go back to a yellow flag condition, and then work on those cars in the garage can commence.
Yeah, if you're unfortunate enough to be involved in an accident and you plan on repairing your car, this is a perfect world. Those guys have had over an hour to make every type of game plan. Everyone has an assignment just to try to fix that thing as quick as possible.